Alright guys, we're out on the BMW R1200 RT. This is a 2014, and I'm going to give you guys a bit of my likes and dislikes of sort of this whole platform. And so this isn't going to be my comprehensive review that I actually want to do a review on this bike where it shows, you know, why I like 2014 versus why I like a 2009 versus why I like a 2002. We're going to go over some of the features of this bike and what makes it a great bike, what makes it a, you know, maybe not so great bike, or, you know, what features are wasted. Let's just get into it right now. Boom. Stereo. My cough, that's useless. Bluetooth connectivity, all power port plugs and all of that. Keyless ignition. Alright. Just as a little precursor here, I have been not on the bike for a while because of a few things. I needed to travel to Alaska. We had a funeral in Alaska, which was a real sad event. And then getting back here into the lower 48, I ended up getting COVID. Now I've got my vaccines, I've got my booster, but I still got a pretty bad case of COVID-19, and I'm just getting over it. 3 days ago tested negative, so it's just been a while to get back into things, and my energy level is pretty low. But here we are in the beautiful Livermore Valley with these great vineyards, and it's a great time for a ride. Here's the bike. Alright, 2014 BMW R1200 RT, and here's some features that are completely useless to me. The useless features: the stereo. It's got a stereo system that I just basically turn off and never turn back on again, because I don't know why I'd want to listen to the stereo outside on these speakers. I could just listen to it in the headset on my helmet, because I just install the either Senna or Cardo, and on this helmet I've got the Cardo unit. Great speakers. Sorry about the cough. Great speakers inside my helmet, and pretty much useless outside to listen to a stereo here unless I really crank it up. And if I was listening to it in my garage or something, yeah, they sound really good in the garage, but, you know, I got a stereo in my garage. That seems useless to me. Let's go another useless thing. So we've got a GPS unit on this. The head unit comes off. It is the BMW unit. It is the same as the Garmin, and I have a Garmin as well. It'll fit right in that same deal. It just does all the controls. Actually, with this unit, work the same. But there's some things I don't like about that. One is now you have a GPS unit that doesn't really get updated like your phone for maps and stuff. So just mounting a phone is a better way to get directions than this GPS unit. And for large directions where I want to download maps and stuff, I can actually still do that to my phone and then keep it charged. So it's not totally useless because you can get directions and stuff, and it's nice to have, and it fits in there perfectly. So it's a minor thing. The thing I hate about all of that stuff is, hey, we're going to go up here into the VA Medical Center. This is a pretty little drive up in here, and most people miss it. But so there's Bluetooth connectivity on the bike itself and on the GPS and all of that, and I think it's completely useless. Why do I want to connect my phone to my GPS and then connect it to my helmet? The connection's way better from my helmet to my phone. So why would I want to do the third connection? It just doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form, and it's not as good as the latest technology that's out there. It just kind of works. So that seems like wasted technology, and no real reason for it. I just don't really get that. I don't think that's necessary at all. And so what else is kind of like that on this bike? Hard to see that. So I've got this antenna here. That's still for the stereo, but just to mention one other thing here, and that is that the plugs that are enabled on this, so like the power port plugs and all of that, they give you these power port plugs, but they're these little tiny ones down here. I'm not sure if you can see that. I've got to watch out for the deer there. Look at this little guy. He's got his little horns coming up. How cute. There's another little deer. Hello, deer. Our dear friends. Anyways, let's see. I'll stop for a second so you can see that little port here. And here we go. Here's a good little spot to stop. And let's see. If I look down here, you see that little port? It's a little tiny opening there. That's their old BMW sort of port. Now, other people are making cables for that as well, but it's kind of a waste. Why have something that is only like proprietary when you just need power? You know, so what most people are doing, then that goes to the CAN bus system, and if you overpower it, it could shut things down on the bike. So a lot of people just connect things to the battery and run a power port up here, and you can run everything off of that. The other little thing that I would mention, so in this pocket over here, which I put a little wiper, there is a power port in here as well to connect your phone or a USB drive. I think that's completely useless, and who needs that? Because technology keeps moving faster than these things go. So I wouldn't put my phone won't fit in there, number one. And so I'm not going to put my phone in there. So I'm not going to connect anything to it. The connector you might put into it would be a drive for music. But you could use Bluetooth to connect your music. And so why would you want a drive to this music when you can't really hear it? So anyways, that's just a pet peeve. I think they could do without that. Just open up that box for storage, which I use it for. Another little storage box over there is pretty nice. So I do like those two things. Nice little storage boxes. Alright, let's continue on. The next thing, I'm going to go on some things I like really quick, because I don't like all this negative talk. I love the windscreen, adjustable windscreen that goes back to the position you set it for. When you get back on the bike and start driving away, it comes right back up to the spot you left it in. That's cool. That's been in place for a long time, so it's not like that's super new or anything. I just like it. The windscreen on this thing, the shape of it is really good. The foil it creates is really pretty fantastic. I'm going to drive through this parking lot because this is a pretty neat view if I get the right angle here looking out. I'm going to cough again. So there's been some discussion over the windscreen design on these things, and people are getting bigger ones and such. But it's really created to give you some airflow and create some pressure, and that which helps for long distance riding. It doesn't put you in a full air bubble like the old bikes did. The full air bubble that sticks you, you know, in this little pocket creates turbulence after a while, and you kind of get this buffeting. Your passenger gets kind of brutally buffeted with those types of windscreens. So if it's just for yourself, you like that big air bubble and you're not having a passenger, that can kind of work. But they've kind of designed this one so that you get that airfoil, and then you raise it up, your passenger can actually feel that, and you can take them in and out of that air bubble a little bit to where they're more comfortable. I like that. So I like the design of the fairings too, and they put these little side fairing things, these little winglets. Those come on the bike where you used to have to kind of buy those extra because they helped. Well, they helped so much that BMW put them on their bikes now. So those are really cool and very helpful. The fairing design has changed a bit, and I like it better. It just helps in these little tiny bits. You know, for long distance touring, it really does help quite a bit. I think it's a better design. It gets rid of the little buffeting. It protects just enough to keep the rain and things like that off of you. Love that. Let's get into some other things. I'm just covering a bunch of stuff here. So the big thing would be to talk about this little dial over here and the controls that it controls. So this little bugger over here, I tend to not use it very much because it's really going to control the stereo, and then I can control things like suspension and all of that. There's a speed bump down there. I completely missed that. I went over it. which would give me a good thing on the suspension. But the little dial, it's cool, and on the street bike it's great. I think on the GS it's a bad idea because you break that little wheel and some things get to where you can't work them. On this bike it works pretty well. It's pretty intuitive, so kind of getting used to it. We'll take a right here and go up this way. So the wheels, cool. I think you could have buttons, but there would just be so many buttons at this point. If you got rid of the stereo and got rid of all the interaction of all that stuff, you probably wouldn't need the dial. But also, let's get into the suspension. So the suspension, which right now we have set on normal one person, and that suspension is better than it's been in the past quite a bit. It's better because if I go from, you know, the normal to hard to soft, there's a big difference between all three of those, and so it can make it so really comfortable. It'll raise the bike up a bit when I get really into the sporty. As it raises it up, we'll create more ground clearance. That's super helpful. I'm going to get back to you guys in just a minute. We'll continue this on here in a second. This is a great little ride up here. A little camper oil for the kids. Come up here to this camp. Super fun. And then we come up, just going up further than this, there's a dam up here. That's Dalval Dam. And there is a staging area for hikes. I usually hike here. You go up to the top, hike up to the top of that hill and around part of the lake. You can't drive up to the dam anymore. It's been years since you could do that. But there's the dam there. The dam road is blocked. I think they do that because they don't want people up on the dam. And this is a great hiking area here. Alright, let's get back into it. So the suspension's fantastic. Way better than it's ever been on any of the other RTs by a mile. I mean, just with the old one, if you had the knob, that worked pretty well because you could just crank it up as much as you wanted to. But the ESA that they had before, it was either way too soft, and then with your passenger and stuff, it was maybe still a little bit too soft. This, you can make it firmer than you want for two people, and you can adjust every time for luggage, for all of that. It never seemed to have as much a dramatic change as it does now with the newer bikes. They've done a really great job with that. Guys, let's talk about fuel economy, the engine, and things like cruise control. So fuel economy is better on this bike than it was on my 09. Better with a passenger and my luggage. I still consistently get great gas mileage, and I'm thinking I can get 50 miles per gallon on this bike pretty easily. Whereas before, I was probably getting about 40 miles per gallon and as low as about 30. So definitely I can make this thing get about 40 by riding it a lot harder, but definitely better fuel economy with the bike. The engine, let's get into that. The engine is better. This is the Water Boxer 2014. They've got the water oil cooled bike instead of just air and oil cooled, and they keep changing that cam a little bit and creating a little bit more power, and it is absolutely fantastic. You still have that sort of same, when I'm cruising around like this, it feels just like my 09. It kind of sounds like it. It rides a little bit like it. The riding position feels the same. Sometimes I forget, oh, I'm on my newer bike. I really do, until you really get on the gas. And this thing revs out and sounds amazing when you get on the gas. Just not like it used to. I mean, it has, once you got to a certain point with, say, the 09 and the older ones even worse, you got to a certain RPM range and the bike just kind of gave up. It was just sort of like, yeah, I'll keep going, but I'm not giving you any more power. Where with this, let's see, break it down into a gear. Let's give it some beans. It really hauls. It really moves out. It sounds good too. So I love the motor. Motor's awesome. Way faster than it used to be, and sounds awesome. I would never change the exhaust out on this thing either. That's one of my pet peeves. People changing out the exhaust. But makes it sound like a Briggs & Stratton. Anyways, What are we also going to talk about? Well, there's that cruise control, and the cruise control works like it should. I mean, there's no complaints there because it just absolutely works like it should. And I love how you really have to make sure you turn the thing on. So you click that on right there, there's the button, and then I just press the set button, and I'm at the speed I want to be, and it just keeps me there. Perfect. Electronic cruise control, so it's going to keep me at 26 miles an hour until I turn that sucker off. Now the nice part about that is I just turned it off, and it didn't just kind of collapse everything, whereas with the 09 there was a little bit of a hesitation between it controlling the throttle and what your hand was doing. So no matter where your hand was, it was controlling the throttle, and it would actually move the throttle. Really weird. Move the throttle and all of that. And when you turned it off, it would just sort of turn everything off, and you'd always get that hesitation where it slowed down. This one I don't tend to get that, so I like that. A little bit better. Tiny improvement. Probably a whole different cruise control system, but works like it should. Why do people buy the RT, and why are there such a big fan club on the BMW RT versus other bikes? And I think it's important to talk about, because it's not because the RT is the best, most technologically advanced, smoothest, most beautiful motorcycle created. It's not. It is not. And I can give you some examples why, but I'm going to tell you why people love it first. So people love the RT because of its quirkiness. BMW sort of struggled with this whole thing on the quirkiness of the boxer engine, how the RT sits and feels, how it rides, this suspension setup that's the telelever suspension. All of this makes up a very quirky motorcycle that you just end up falling in love with. It just works, and you get used to these little quirks and really want them. So let's start with riding position. The riding position, your butt sits a little low. You feel like you're sitting in the motorcycle a little bit. I have the higher seat option, so I feel a little bit more on top of it. But your legs are bent quite a bit, so not so much that it's uncomfortable. And at 6 foot, I thought, wow, this might get uncomfortable, and it does not. So I've ridden this bike for, 16 hours straight. Never bothered me with the legs. Nice, comfortable seat. And then it has this, so the riding position is a little different than other bikes. Other bikes have your feet a little lower, but with your feet as high as they are on this bike, it gives you a lot more cornering clearance. And it has that boxer engine, which would make you think that it doesn't have the cornering clearance. It has plenty of cornering clearance, so the heads are not going to hit the ground. But if you lower the foot pegs, those are going to hit the ground pretty quick. So it's just sort of that geometry of this bike. And then you match that with the telelever suspension, and if you get on the brakes, it doesn't dive like other bikes do. So if I really grab on the brakes like that, the whole bike kind of squats instead of the front diving, and it's a really pleasant thing to have in corners, and it doesn't destabilize as some other bikes do. And other bikes, you kind of get used to that, but with this, you get used to not having to worry about it. I guess that's the key. Then there's the engine that is sort of quirky, and it has this sort of, you listen to it like it sounds like you're sitting on a tractor or something. And they've improved that over the years to give it a little bit more power. And it's got it's a very torquey motor, but not a real revvy, powerful motor like other bikes. And then the technology set on this has always been a little bit behind the curve, and they've done always a little funky things with the brakes, things like that in the past that they've gotten rid of. But all these little quirky things make a bike that you just fall in love with, and it's different than other bikes, and that's why people end up just loving them. And you'll see that this is sort of the rider's bike. They call some cars, they say, hey, this is the driver's car. They say that with the Porsche 911. They say that with a lot of other cars that are out there. They say, it's a driver's car, and people put tons of miles on them, where other cars in the same class, they don't. Well, it's the same thing with this bike. That people just want to be out on the motorcycle and experiencing that quirkiness all the time. And it's because it's not an irritating quirkiness, it's something you fall in love with. And that's why people love this bike. If you look at the K1600, the K1600 on paper is a better bike by leaps and bounds. It has a much more powerful motor. It has a longer wheelbase for a smoother ride. It has a more comfortable seating position as far as, you know, that goes. It has a higher technology set, you know, much more technology-based bike. It is built for everything that could be modern and wonderful in a motorcycle, and it takes all that quirkiness away, all those things that you really enjoy as a motorcycle rider, all those things that make you feel unique and that your ride is a bit more unique. And it's the same, you start getting into, like, Honda does this wonderfully. They've got a beautiful motorcycle that is massively reliable, and it's just plain, you know. And if you're commuting and you just don't care about the bike that much, you're not really into the rider's aspect of it, you just need to get from here to there, I mean, man, that is the bike, because it's just so dang reliable. And then you know, Kawasaki makes a very reliable motorcycle with a massively sporty motor in it. You know, it's got that 1400 cc, well, it's 1390 whatever, with, you know, 180 horsepower or something like that. Just flies. And the BMW K1600 sounds like a sports car when it takes off. It sounds, I mean, amazing sounding bike. But all those that character, now instead of calling it quirkiness, we're going to call it character. That character that's in the motorcycle is sort of missing. It's just a bike now, and building that character in is something that builds the fan base, that builds why people ride and why they want to have a motorcycle and spend a lot of time on it. And that's why, like, Harley Davidsons are the same way. You've got all this character in the bike, and, you know, you've got all that, you know, so you're really into that ride. And that's the same thing with this BMW RT, and much more than you would be with the K1600. If you want the most advanced motorcycle, you want the biggest technology set, then really this is not the bike. The bike is that K1600. There's other motorcycles that have just done that a bit better, more modern engines, but if you like that character and you want to have that character, then the RT is definitely the bike for you. Let's name another bike that's got character like that. The Moto Guzzi Norge. Lots of character with that motorcycle. The way the motor operates, actually a little bit more, it was a more perky motorcycle than, say, the 09 RT. But the RT has sort of kept up to that, or maybe surpassed it a bit. But that's another bike with a lot of character, and the technology set is, you know, years behind on the Moto Guzzi Norge. It's, you know, circa 2000. Let's just stop there. Circa 2000. This bike, and then we talked about it just a second ago, is a rider's motorcycle. So what does that mean? And you can kind of give yourself a little self-evaluation. If you're the kind of person that takes pride in that car that you have, and you like driving around in that car, you can just hear the way it sounds, and it makes that, you know, you like listening to the little sounds. You turn the stereo off, and you kind of go, okay, my car's running right. You're that kind of guy, right? And if you're the kind of person that takes road trips with your wife or significant other, or your husband, and you guys like the aspect of talking to people about want to talk to people about your motorcycle. Maybe you do now. Maybe you take your car out, but you know, a lot of stops at gas stations and stuff, and you go up and you talk to people about their travels. Those are the kind of people that just absolutely love this bike, this whole platform, anywhere from the 1150 up to the 1250. That's the type of person. If that's the type of person you want to be, that's the type of person you are, this is the bike for you. It really is. Everywhere you go, people always ask you questions about it. Oh, what year is that one? And you know, what's the difference between this and that on the different models? And that's not the same thing when you get on, say, Kawasaki Concourse 14 there. Oh, how fast does that go? Well, I don't know. You know, or you know, the K1600, and it's like, oh, that's one of those BMWs. They don't really know. They're not into the nuances of the bike. And that's not a problem, and a lot of people should just be out there to just ride and get that ride done with. And if you're that style of person, and if you're with your car, you're like, hey, I want to take a road trip, I'm more interested about getting there, seeing what's there, and enjoying my stay when I get there. And I just so happen to want to take a motorcycle. That K1600, the Kawasaki, the Honda, amazing bikes, and will probably save you some money over buying one of these. And so that's, I think, a way to kind of sum that up. I'll try doing more of that. Right now, I'm just going to enjoy this ride. This is my first post-COVID ride. Oh, guys, wish me some luck on getting over this this COVID thing. Right now, I have a hard time getting the energy to... I can't do my hikes. Just walking the dang dogs is like all I can do. Even this ride, it feels like, you know, I'm almost winded and I'm just sitting here on the bike, but I just don't have the lung capacity anymore that I did before. So I'm trying to get that exercise up. It's only been a couple of days since I've tested negative, but guys, give me a like or a good luck or something like that. I'm going to try and get myself back in shape so I can get a lot more of these rides coming in, and I will see you soon. See you.